Hey, good people, welcome back to Monique's Book List. As you know, I took a break from doing the standard wrap up and TBR videos because they are tedious. They are hard to do for me. And why are they tedious? Because I think the problem came in. This is supposed to be a 15-minute wrap up on, or not wrap up, a 15-minute review on several books. So we'll get there. So this video is probably going to be 20 minutes to get to the 15 minutes. All right, I promise. I'm going to go. So, so I took a break from doing wrap-ups and TBRs because they are tedious. They're tedious because I have to come up with the list. And how do you come up with the list? Do you just have books that you want to read? Some people are mood readers. I'm a mood reader. And then there's sometimes where um I don't want to read the stuff that I said I was going to read, so I don't really like TBRs. I really don't like them. I like to just do things kind of organically. However, I do enjoy wrap-ups. I do like talking about books. So, I'm doing this test to see if I have a new, or try out this new format of technically doing a wrap-up, but not really doing a wrap-up, not calling it a wrap-up, and trying to keep it into 15 minutes. So I said all that to say, that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to start a timer on my phone, and I'm going to set it for 15 minutes, and I'm going to try to do as many books I've read since the last wrap up, how many reviews I can do of books in that time. So let's see. Let's get the timer ready. Now, let's be 100. The first time I do this is probably going to be a shit show. So let's just be mindful of that. Just out of love, have a little compassion for your girl. Um, have a little compassion for your girl. But yeah, so I'm going to try to do at least 3 books in this 15-minute span. And I'm not going to look at the timer. I'm just going to see how much I can get done and just see what happens. Let's see how this goes. All right, so I'm going to start the timer, and I'm going to go find some books that I read. Okay, so since the last time I did a wrap up, I read a book called The Greatest Love Story by Megan Malawi and Nick Offerman. You know Nick from Parks and Recreations, and you know Megan from Love and Grace, Will and Grace. She is Karen. And they wrote a book about their relationship and kind of about their life. And this book was fucking hilarious. I enjoyed every single thing about this book. I enjoyed how real they were. I enjoyed how much they talked about their families and how much they talked about how they grew up and how they became a couple, and just very honest about Megan's previous marriage before she met Nick. Very honest about their age difference. Very honest book. It was a really good read. Now, I listened to the book. I did not read it. However, I read this. A buddy read this with my best friend Cal, and he absolutely enjoyed reading it. It does come with pictures. It comes with a section where they just do random pictures of themselves, and I think at the beginning of every chapter there's a new picture of them, and then if you're reading the book, you will get to see that. In the audiobook, they describe it. They describe the pictures. There's this one point where they have a puzzle, so they're like they take pictures of themselves, puzzles that they completed, and then they kind of act it out, like do a picture of it. So they describe that. But what I did, because I'm greedy, I listened to the audiobook, and then I found a copy of the digital copy of the book through Libby, which is a free app, which is connected to your local library, and I looked at the pictures while they were talking about it. The great thing about listening to the book is, one, they read the book to you, so it's hella fun. And then on top of that, they have a bonus chapter where they just kind of talk about the stuff they didn't get to put in the official book. So that was good. I gave that book, I think I gave it 5 stars, or did I give it 4? I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars. Yeah, I gave it 5 stars. All right, so then another book I read after that was, I listened to The Chocolate Thief, and that is by Laura Floren. I read this as a part of romance bingo, I had to read a book about that was surrounding food. And this book takes place, it's actually the funniest coincidence of my life. So I read this book, and this book is technically based off how French people, or not French people, or let's just say the stereotype that French people think American chocolate is bullshit. Like, they think it's gross, they think it's sour, and it's the way we make the chocolate, because we condense the milk and we basically take the liquid out of the milk and we leave like just the powder, and then the powder itself is quite sour. And we put that in the chocolate. So Americans did that because up until Hershey, because Hershey is the person who did that, up into him, like, Americans at that time had never had milk chocolate. We had dark chocolate. It was very common for people to have dark chocolate, things such as that. But when he did that, he noticed that the sour taste, but he didn't mind it, so he kept it in. And we've been eating it all of our life, and we don't even know that it's technically a sour taste in the chocolate. But French people know it. People who've had milk chocolate for years, in Europe, before we had milk chocolate, they knew it. So I said all that to say this book is about, technically, it is a woman who is the heir to the equivalent of Hershey's. She is she's the granddaughter of the person who started the chocolate craze. I think they're called Corey bars. And she meets a guy in France who she's trying to get to convince to do a high-end, or technically a low-end, high-end, like a everyday chocolate bar, because his chocolate is expensive. Like, I guess 4 pieces of his chocolate is like $75. Who the hell paying $75 for chocolate, okay? Anyway, so she's trying to convince him to make a more affordable chocolate for everyone in France and for people in America to get introduced to him. Well, they fall in love. It's a hate-to-love relationship. I absolutely thought this book was boring. I read it to the end, but I thought it was boring. However, I did like that it had some history elements to it. Like, it talked about after the war, I think it's the war that happened, World War II. What was I saying? How people in France were the soldiers, everything, after everything happened, they were hungry. And the company, Corey, was actually passing out their chocolate bars as food rations. And if you want me to go into the story, the history of chocolate, I can. I'm not a huge chocolate person. I just like history, so that's why anyway, I'm messing with my time. Anyway, so I did like the element where they talked about that and how they were loving our chocolate bars then, which is a true truth. Hershey's did so much for when it came to food and supplies for the war, that they gave him the highest honor that you could give a person who wasn't in the military, for his contributions during the war, when it came to food rations and things such as that. He made everything from he made everything from chocolate to like food rations that people could eat very easily when they were in the war. It's okay. I gotta go. Next book. Let's get to the next book. I got 9 minutes. I guess that's not too terrible. So then I read a book called Rough Stretch by Kate Canterbury. I read 1, 2, 3, 4. I read 4 of her books in a series called The Walshers. I'm not saying it right, but you'll see a copy of the book here. Anyway, I read 4 of the books in this series. I think there's 5 of them actually, or 7. No, there's 7. I read 4. I didn't want to read all 7. Cute little romance books. Nothing crazy. They were good. They were good, but nothing crazy. And then I read Sweet Dreams by Kristen Ashley. This book was clearly written before people understood that misogyny was dumb. Before people realized that masculinity could be toxic. This book is fucking just... So I was so angry. I read it all because I was like, you need to give it a chance. You need to stop. I try to not measure it too much against today's standards of how you treat women. However, it's kind of it's kind of hard for me not to. However, like the main character, the first way he's introduced this girl or this woman, this is a grown ass woman in her 40s. In her 40s, okay? He's upset because he doesn't something's going on in his life and he's upset by it. So when he sees her, she's working at his bar and he takes his partner in the back where he doesn't shut the door. And he's like, why did you bring this old frumpy fat woman, middle-aged fat woman here to work for us? And the main character, and I think her name is, if I get it right, I think Lauren, her name is Lauren. She hears him and she's pissed, of course. And so she gives him the cold shoulder, and he, like, the next day she comes into work and she's giving him the cold shoulder. And he's like, he goes, hey, Ace. Or no, he calls her honey. Like, first of all, you call her fat and frumpy and old. And then he's like, hey, honey. And she's like, who the hell are you talking to? I know you're talking to me because you think I'm fat and frumpy, first and foremost. And then second of all, I'm not your honey. So then he's like, hey, Ace. And he goes, I know you heard me yesterday, and I was wrong. He didn't even say I was wrong. He just like, I said some messed up stuff. You need to get over it. Just get over it. And she goes, okay. And he can tell she's not okay with it. So he just keeps badgering her to like basically pretend like it didn't happen, basically just to get over it. Like he keeps saying, get over it, get over it. And at one point, she's like, you can't tell me how to feel. And he was like, I say messed up stuff when I'm mad. So, and I don't think he ever officially said I'm sorry. Like, I don't really think he said I'm sorry. But throughout the whole book, he kind of, like, I think he feels like he knows better for her. So he's always kind of, like, telling her, sometimes he's, like, actually telling her to shut up. And then sometimes he's telling her what she's going to do. It was just really toxic. It was just, I did not enjoy this book because I just felt like if any person talked to me that way, I wouldn't let them. That's what I'm going to say. And then I read Untamed Mackenzie, and again, this is the fifth and a half book. It says 5.5. Fifth and a half book about the brother, the illegitimate brother in the Mackenzie McBride series, romance book. If you know them, you know how good they are. Decent book. Okay, so then I read middle grade book by, that book was by Jennifer Ashley, The Untamed Mackenzie. The next book I read was by John Belair, and he's written a book called The House with the Clock in the Walls. Now this is technically middle grade, and I'm pretty sure this book was written like early 1930s. Oh, sorry. It was written in 2004, but it was supposed to be from a time, it was set in 1948. And this book for a middle grade book was really good. I really enjoyed it. I would highly suggest it. And I think that, I watched the movie and it was interesting. Anyway, so I said all that to say the book is about a young boy who goes to live with his uncle because his parents are deceased. And he's in a house. His uncle lives in a house that has like a ton of clocks in it. If you've seen the movie, you know the base story. For those of them who have not, let's get the base story out of the way. So Lewis goes to live with his uncle, Jonathan. And Jonathan's best friend is a woman whose name I can't remember right now. And they're both magicians. And Jonathan, the Uncle Jonathan, lives in a house that is that belonged to an evil magician, and a magician who tries to basically he wants to destroy the world, basically. And lo and behold, Lewis gets himself into some trouble trying to be friends with his kid at school and bring somebody back from the dead. And it's not the guy who owned the house. I think it's Izzard is his name. His last name is Warlock Izzard. And long story short, it was crazy. It was a good book. Kind of dark. If you have kids around the age of like 11 to 14, I would say this is a good read in October, Halloween time. Good book. I watched the movie, and how much time do I have left? Woo, 3 minutes. I watched the movie, and it was good too. I would suggest the book over the. Actually, if you never read the book and you watch the movie, it's hella enjoyable. It has Jack Black and I think Kate Blanchett. I think that's her name. Good movie. The book is good. They're very different. They're similar, but they are very different. I enjoyed both. Okay, so then the last two books I want to talk about are The Bookish Life of Nina Hill. This book was awful. I DNF'd it because I really, really, really tried to read this book because I was so excited. I was like, oh, I'm going to read about a bookworm and how she's a badass, No. There's so many plot lines towards this girl's life. She finds out, spoiler alert, that her father was this wealthy attorney. She finds out, or clearly she's dealing with like some type of social issues going on in her. And then she's dealing with potentially having a boyfriend. And what was the other thing that just recently happened? Oh, the place she works for may be shut down. The bookstore she works for. And she's a huge, what's the word? She's a huge trivia person. And she keeps getting kicked out of trivia. It's all this stuff going on. And normally, honestly, like if all this stuff was going on in the book, it would be exciting, you would think. No, this book was so boring and uneventful. Like, I was so angry. I was angry at this book. All right, and then I read a book called The Princess Trapped, and this is by Talia Hibbert. This is the third book I've tried to read from her, and I want to like her books because and she's romance. Most of her books are romance, and they all have something to do with unconventional relationships. And when I say about unconventional, I guess it's not unconventional. They deal with interracial dating a lot. But I absolutely hate all of her. This is the third book. I've only finished one of the 3 books I read. So this was the first one I actually finished. The Princess Trap. And then You Want to Bet, I got halfway through and was like, I'm not wasting my life. I think I read another one of her books. Let me see if I can find it. And I felt the same way. Like I'm not out here about to waste my life reading her books. But The Princess Trap was about a girl like her. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. The Princess Trap is basically about a prince of a foreign country. He meets this girl, and he's from a foreign country, but the story takes place technically takes place in Norway and in London. And she's British and he's Norwegian, or is it Danish? He's Danish, so it's oh. All right, so I'm gonna finish this and then we're done. He's technically it's not Denmark. He's Danish. So Danish is Denmark. It's in Norway. This is how boring the book was. Anyway, it's like it's a Norwegian country that he's from. But it's a small, unknown country, and he's a prince, and he had, I guess he was into some kinky stuff, and the girl that he was dating before, or messing, or sleeping with before he meets the main character in this book, and I want to say her name is Nina too, actually. Is it Nina? The prince's name, her name is Cherry. That's right. Her last name is Nita. That's right. Her name is Cherry. It's not a nickname. Her name is Cherry. So Cherry is British, and Prince Reuben is from the small country of Helmorga. I don't know where that's supposed to be at. Anyway, so it's probably, I don't know. Anyway, he doesn't tell her he's a prince when he first meets her, but he's of course head over heels in love with her the first time he lays eyes on her, because that's how most romance works, right? It's how it works. Anyway, so he meets her and He doesn't tell her that he is a prince, and so she's thinking like, oh, this is a cool guy. Well, they get to hugging and kissing and about to, brown chicken, brown cow, and the press from his home country, a guy who's like always taking pictures of him, always trying to catch him slipping, shows up while they're doing this, like in a public place. He's taking pictures and he's like asking questions, and he goes, Prince Reuben says, you can't take pictures of me. He goes, no, I can't take pictures of you, but I can take pictures of her because that's not against the law in our country because she's not part of your family. The law there in his country is you can't take pictures of the royal family. And he goes, she's my fiance, so technically she is a part of the family. And he says this all in his native tongue, so she doesn't know what's going on. Long story short, they both pretend to be engaged, and they go on a crazy, stupid ride. And I read as much as I could. I actually finished that book, and it was boring. And however, the sexy scenes were sexy. I will give her that. But the rest of the book was boring and dumb. So that is my 15-minute wrap up in 18 minutes, I think. Anyway, so I want to try to do something like this. I don't think I'm going to do official wrap ups anymore. Period. I will be doing wrap ups, but they will be like this, a 15-minute review. How many books I can review in 15 minutes. TBRs are gone. I don't like them. I don't even think that they're, which is weird because I believe that they're my most watched videos. So maybe I should reconsider that. I'll think about it. I'm not going to stick to that list. There's never been a month that I've read all the books on that list. I have never done that. So maybe I'll do my top 3 books I'm going to read month or something like that. Maybe I'll do something like that, or a smaller TBR, because I've never finished that list. And I just hate feeling like I have a list of something I have to do and never finishing it or never accomplishing it. It's defeating. So yeah, hopefully I'll figure something out about TBRs. But I think this is the new format for wrap-ups. It's just a 15-minute review on however many books I can get through. All right. I read a few more, but nothing that sticks out. Okay, until next time, bye.